Hello, and how are you? I'm Dr. Marty Martin, and I'm a faculty member in the city of Chicago at DePaul University in the School of Business. What I want to talk with you today about is conflict. Not conflict on the street, not conflict at work, but conflict when you're assigned group work in your courses. And that can be a pain. That'll be my focal point, but what I'll say will apply to conflict in other settings as it relates to group work beyond the school setting, but my primary focus will be within the school setting. So the first thing you have to do when you say to yourself there's conflict here, or you're feeling some feelings and symptoms, maybe it's a little gastrointestinal disturbance, maybe it's some anger, maybe it's being overheated, is what type of conflict is actually going on. So before you can address it, you have to diagnose it, if you will. So if you note, there are 4 types of conflict. The first is intrapersonal conflict. So that's conflict within yourself. So if you're not clear about what you want, you're ambivalent, then that's going to produce conflict. But that resides within you. So before you can manage conflict, you have to get clear within yourself what you want. Because think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to resolve conflict with another person and they don't know what they want? It goes nowhere. Second type of conflict, and probably the most common in group work in schools, is interpersonal. So conflict between 2 or more people. So kind of me versus you. The next one is personal functional conflict. And that can happen in group projects as well. So you're assigned a group project that involves some tasks that you don't like. So that's creating the conflict. So it's not the people, but it's the task that you have to do. So that can create some conflict. The last one is personal organizational conflict. So you've enrolled maybe in a concentration, you've enrolled in a degree, or perhaps you enrolled in a school that for what reason you really don't have an affinity towards, you really don't like. So there's a little bit of a resentment about anything that has to do with maybe the concentration, the degree, or the school. So the first thing before you can manage conflict is to identify it. So although there are 4 types of conflict, you can experience just one or all 4. So what is conflict? It's differences in perspectives, beliefs, actions, or interests. So it's just a difference. So since it's a difference, you first want to understand the difference, look for commonalities among the differences, and then move forward. A little bit more about that later. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, "Seek first to understand, then be understood." So one of the best ways to resolve conflict is first diagnose it, remember the 4 types, but then really try to find out in a genuine way that other person's perspective. What's their point of view? What's their preference? Why is that important for them? What might they be willing to give up? What are they going to hold on to dearly? Because by understanding another person's perspective, it will suggest to you some ways that you can resolve the conflict. Now, there's an instrument called the Thomas Kilmann Conflict Mode instrument, and it's a great tool, so I would encourage you, if you get the opportunity to take that tool, take that tool. What he does is he divides up ways of resolving conflict into 5 ways. Let's start with the first one, competing. So competing, what you do is try to force your will, if you will, upon the other party such that they yield. So that's not a bad way of doing it. If it's an urgent situation or emergent situation, you may have to compete. The other way is collaborating. So when you collaborate, you look at different points of view and perspectives, you kind of reconcile them, you build upon them, you create synergy to perhaps come up with a better outcome than what you could have come up if you had not managed the conflict. The one in the middle is called compromising. When you compromise, you're fundamentally making a bargain or you're engaged in some type of deal. There are 2 types of compromisers, those with a memory and those without a memory. Those with a memory, what they're saying is, you know, Marty, I yielded to you 7.92 times, and I'm not budging till you yield to me 7.96 times. So watch out for those compromisers if they're counting. Another way to resolve conflict is accommodating. So when you accommodate, you kind of make nice. So there's a little bit of kind of conflict skirmish over here, and you say, I really don't want to deal with that, So it's kind of like Burger King, have it your way. The last one is avoiding. So someone may come to you and say, hey, there's a conflict here, and you're saying, what conflict? There's no conflict here. I mean, everything seems cool to me. So that's avoidance. So each one of these conflict management styles, we all have a natural style, are useful at certain points in time. So not only do you have to identify the type of conflict, try to understand genuinely the perspective of the other, but then say to yourself, which one of these approaches is the best way to deal with the conflict at this moment in time? So another way of looking at the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument: competing, might makes right; collaborating, two heads are better than one; compromising, split the difference. Remember, compromisers that count and those that don't; avoiding, leave well enough alone; and lastly, accommodating, kill your enemies with kindness. So when you think about all these different ways of approaching conflict, I'm going to give you some very specific tasks to do to resolve conflict a bit better. So as I go through these particular tasks, I want you to really focus on the point is that sometimes you really got to get in the trenches and kind of get busy when you actually work on resolving these conflicts. So with this, I'm going to kind of throw this chair over here because you really got to get focused. First one, controlling emotional responses. You can't control somebody else's emotions, but you can control your own. So if you're feeling agitated and irritable and angry, that's not the time to intervene, because you're likely to say something that you actually mean at that moment, but you will later regret. Second one, seek understanding. Remember Covey's, first seek to understand, then be understood. Third, identify the needs of the other person. What do they need? Do they need more time, more explanation, more support? What do they need? And common interests. Because when you're working in a group, remember, one of the key characteristics of a high-performing group is common goals. Lastly, seek mutual benefit or purpose. So within a school setting, mutual benefit is we get a good grade. Purpose is got a good grade in the assignment, in the course, well on my way. So that one's a little bit more straightforward within an academic setting. 6 things to keep in mind when in a crucial conversation. You're saying, crucial conversation, where'd that come from? So when you're in the midst of resolving conflict, you're engaged in a crucial conversation. There's a great book about it called Crucial Conversations. Check it out on Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. So in essence, what a crucial conversation is, it has 3 elements. Stakes are high, emotions are running high, and extremely important. So those are kind of the 3 characteristics. So when you're engaged in a crucial conversation with another member of your group or team, first start with yourself and reflect. Why? Remember, one of the 4 types of conflict was intrapersonal. So really find out, what do you want, what do you need, what are you willing to give up, what are you going to press on? Next one, share your facts, your observations. But remember, your facts and observations may not actually be their facts and observations. That's where the discussion comes in. Tell your story. If you're upset, why are you upset? Are you just upset about this, or does it remind you of somebody or something else? Are you anxious? You may want to say, I'm feeling anxious about this, but I'm a little bit concerned about our grade. Ask for their side of the story. And when you ask for their side of the story, show what's called good attending behaviors. That's not the time to have your smartphone in hand checking things, nor is the time to be checking your watch, nor is it time to be looking at your laptop or yawning, unless you're incredibly sleepy. Next, encourage dialogue by enacting mutual purpose. So remind the individual, both of us probably want to get an A in this particular assignment. Is that true? So you want to validate that. They'll probably say yes. So I'm wondering what we can do such that we can work along better. What can I do, really, so that we can work in such a fashion so we can get a good outcome, which for both of us is the same, to try to get an A. But you want to engage in dialogue. And you want to talk. Not chit-chat, but talk with a purpose. And the purpose is to resolve the conflict so that way what's called a process gain. You can work better to achieve the outcomes. I'm not suggesting that you like the person or you love the person or you hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But you want to have a good, working, productive relationship, even if you don't like that other person and even if they don't like you. So what does Albert Einstein say about the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same old thing, not talking, not engaging in dialogue, and expecting to get different results. That's crazy. So you don't want to do that. Now you have a variety of ways that you can approach conflict. I shared with you 5 ways from Thomas Kilmann. So I want to boil it down to its simplest way of thinking about it, really in 8 steps to resolving conflict. Let's begin with the first one. You want to create a calm environment for the discussion. But that calm environment is going to depend upon you. Are you centered? Are you grounded? Are you calm? And then you want to introduce it. Now when you introduce it, you want to watch the other person. Are they centered and grounded and calm? So you want to make sure that both of you or one of you is not emotionally hijacked. Because in other ways, you're not going to be able to move forward if that's the case. Second step, open yourself to understanding. Don't be closed and narrow and myopic, but open yourself up. Be willing to look at things from a different point of view. Be willing perhaps to be wrong. So open yourself up to understanding. Have the discussion with the spirit of curiosity. What can you learn? And you fundamentally have to be non-judgmental. So you're not judging whether that individual is right or wrong. Are they ethical or unethical, moral or amoral, whether they care or don't care, but you are evaluating their point of view, their perspective, their data, their information, their deliverable. So you're being evaluative without being judgmental, and you want to focus on the issue. So say, for example, you're going to have this dialogue with me because I wasn't on time and I didn't follow the specifications. The issue is 2 things. Marty, you were late and you didn't follow the instructions. So you don't want to infer intent. The discussion is not about, you're lazy, you're a slacker, you're not motivated, how come you don't care? Focus on the issue. Because if you begin to focus on those characterological things, motivational things, it's going to get distracted, it's going to get heated. Focus on the issues. I was late and I didn't follow instructions. Look for solutions after you've done these other things. Okay, so Marty, what can we do the next time? So would you like me to perhaps send you an email? Can you put it in your calendar? Do you actually have the instruction sheets? We want to walk through it. So again, you want to look for solutions. Implement agreement. So we say, well, let's sit down and think about what do we agree to do moving forward. So, I agree to do A, B, and C, and you agree to do X, Y, and Z. So you really want to lock that in. I'd also encourage you to follow up with an email as well. So that way it kind of solidifies it. And continue to communicate. So you don't want to resolve the conflict and look at it as, did that done with you? Never going to come back? Because we're human beings. And as human beings, we have habits, good habits and bad habits. I was late once. There's a good bet I won't be late again. So you may have to re-engage me in this dialogue. And that's okay, because human beings are quirky and we're habitual. And take another look. So maybe it's resolved successfully, completely, or partially resolved. So take another look and say, hey, is there anything that I could have done or the group could have done to perhaps prevent this or not let it go this far? So what we can learn from this in the future. So those are the 8 steps to resolving conflict. So when you're in a situation with your group, before you automatically shoot off an email to the faculty member, or maybe you kind of tweet about them or do some posting on Facebook, stop and say, what do I need to do as an individual member of this group to directly provide feedback and resolve this conflict? Will it work every single time? No. Will it work more often than not? Yes. So what you need to do now is to implement some of the things that I talked about, because I can guarantee you, if you're assigned a group project or you're working on a group project, conflict's going to happen. Why? Because people are messy. Thank you very much and have a great day.